Hi, my name is Mary Martin, and I am a foreign language interpreter, and I'm speaking today about computer technologies in translation for general business audience. Because of the internet, life today is more connected globally than ever. It's extremely likely that you will have a client or a business partner that doesn't speak your language. But overcoming language barriers can be a complicated task. You need to have two vocabularies, an idea about two grammar structures, and a grasp of idioms and metaphors in two different languages. It's so complicated that even experts can easily make mistakes. There's a famous story about President Jimmy Carter. He took a state visit in 1977 to Poland, and when he got off the plane, he just made small talk with the welcoming diplomats and said that, his flight had been fine and he had just left the United States that morning. However, his interpreter repeated in Polish that, the president's flight was fine, but he had abandoned the United States that morning. So one small word difference and an enormous difference in meaning. So if experts are likely to make mistakes, how can we, as common business people that might not have a grasp of two languages, know how to overcome a language barrier? Well, there are complicated and sophisticated computer algorithms out there that can do much of the work for us. And to understand these programs, we're going to go into a little bit of history and then dive into how they work and operate, and then look at some possibilities for the future. So beginning with the roots of computer translation. It started in the 1950s in the US after the Soviets launched the Sputnik satellite. American scientists were concerned that Russian research in physics and space exploration was outpacing their own, and they wanted to be able to read the research of Russian scientists. However, for translators who didn't have a background in physics or rocket science, the language was too complex and technical, and they couldn't create translations speedily and effectively enough. So the government decided to fund programs at MIT and Georgetown that were working on computer algorithms that could do the job. And with enough money and a little bit of time, they were able to complete these computer programs. Slide forward a little bit to the 1980s with IBM. They were able to apply these programs that were kind of limited to a scientific audience to a business context. They were able to give clients that wanted to conduct international business a chance to have computer translation. These programs ran on something that's called statistical machine translation. That's a fancy way of saying that the computer sees a word, because it reads a sentence word by word by word, sees a word, looks it up in multiple dictionaries that are programmed into its database. When it sees a pairing in the dictionary, it writes it down. And at the end of its searching, it comes up with which pairing was statistically most occurring and presents that as the correct translation. Statistical translation is the same thing that Google Translate was launched with in 2004. Google Translate was a huge innovation because it allowed anyone with an internet connection access to instant and free translations. It's currently offered in 103 languages and is rapidly getting better. This is because Google is adapting the technology to include something called neural machine translation. Neural like the neurons in your brain, because it involves artificial intelligence and deep learning techniques to actually build the computer's vocabulary. The computer can remember the words it's seen before. It can remember connections between words, and it can remember context that certain words apply. New York Times author Gideon Lewis Cross uses the example of the word cat. He says that when the computer sees the word cat, it automatically thinks about other animals that it knows, like dog or mouse. It's also thinking about different body parts, like fur, paw, tail. And at the same time, it's thinking about verbs that are associated with animals, like jump or purr. So when it reads cat, it's automatically thinking of all these connections it knows and is kind of predicting what might be next in the sentence. And this way it can translate whole sentences at a time, rather than having to work word by word. And the translations it comes up with are more human sounding and natural, not jumbled like sometimes Google Translate. The translation doesn't quite make sense to a human ear. So this neural technology has been applied to 9 of the Google Translate languages: English, French, Spanish, German, Portuguese, Mandarin Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and Turkish, which are the languages of 1/3 of the world's population. Other possibilities enabled by neural machine translation include voice translations, so that someone could speak into a microphone and have it texted or emailed out in a completely other language. Similarly, Skype is creating instantaneous voice translations, so that you could speak into a webcam with a business partner or a client or a consultant. And while you're speaking in your language, they're hearing in real time in their own language. Together, all of these neural technologies are really creating exciting possibilities that are rapidly expanding. So from the roots in the space race to IBM and statistical translation, to the possibilities that we're seeing unfolding before us with neural translation, computer programs are really enabling our world to become a lot smaller and us understand each other a lot better. And hopefully we as business people can use these technologies, and maybe future presidents can avoid accidentally abandoning their countries.